Hi textile buddies, I'm Darya, textile and surface pattern designer and painter. On this channel we talk all things textile, pattern, color and artwork. Patterns are everywhere. I want to start today by sharing some exciting news. I'm working on my classes on surface pattern design that I will be sharing on Skillshare soon. You asked, I listened. I have already made an outline of what I'm going to teach, and if you have any requests, please comment below. Yay! I will definitely let you know when the first class will be out, so stay tuned, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to my email newsletter, and follow me on Instagram, pattern_talent. Today's topic is inspired by a comment I received on YouTube, as it often happens here. It was already a while ago. The comment went something like this. As far as I understand, it's better to do everything, every kind of textile design to have more possibilities. And I thought, I think we need to talk about it because it's not 100% true. But maybe I've created this impression with my videos because I work in different styles and categories, and also because of my background as an in-house designer. It sort of put me on this path where you have to be comfortable working on different kinds of art in multiple market categories, such as kids clothing, stationery, and home decor. Completely different worlds, right? But dabbling in everything is definitely not the only or not the preferred way of working. And today we'll look into whether it makes more sense for you to pick out a lane and stick with it, or test and try it all. Let's take 1 second to subscribe if you haven't done so. Let's grow our cozy pattern buddies community. Hit the little bell icon so you don't miss new videos about surface pattern design, and don't forget to like this video if you find the topic interesting. You don't necessarily need to know every possible way of making patterns. In my videos, I try to lay out all the possible options in front of you guys, and also I myself have been making all sorts of different art that I share here and there, but it's not always the best thing to do. You might have heard this recommendation. You need to narrow down your focus. Riches are in the niches. Is it true? This is a little bit of a sensitive topic for me. I will explain later on why, and I don't have one straightforward answer for you guys. But I'll talk about my path in the end, and if you watch my videos, you probably already know that I never give you one answer, one roadmap, and I never say like, you should do this and only this. First of all, what is a niche for textile design? First of all, let's clear out the pronunciation of this word. I like saying it niche. It's a French word, and also in Russian, which is my native language, it's called nisha with the sh sound, so I like to say it niche. But I actually looked it up and both pronunciations are correct. They say that niche is American and niche is European or British English. You might hear me use it either way, please don't get offended, okay? So what is a niche for textile design? It can be a technique or a style that you use, for example, watercolor only, or cartoonish retro designs drawn in Procreate. It's not so much about the technique, but more about the feel, the mood that your art conveys, because customers don't know and often don't care if it's vector, digital, if it's painted, and so on. What they react to is the feel, for example, playful, maximalist, sophisticated, and so on. It can also be a market. For example, you only make kids designs or pets designs, or 90% florals or only florals. Here are some examples. Recently I found a studio on Instagram called 1987 Studio, who only create watercolor artwork for home decor. So it's both a technique and a market. No pets, no kids, most likely no clothes, even though this artwork could be used for apparel. They gear their artworks towards home decor, and it's also easier to market it that way, focused on the specific target audience. Lemon Ribbon Studio, on the other hand, creates kids-only artwork by different artists, but sort of in the same vibe. Take a look. Now the example of the absence of a niche would be many spoonflower shops, including mine. Different topics, different styles, different markets. I think that this creative freedom is what attracts so many artists and designers to platforms like Spoonflower. As a representative of this movement, I can say that putting things in repeat is my niche. I simply like creating patterns, putting things in repeat, motifs in repeat. But I'm aware that it can harm my business too. There are also very niched and focused Spoonflower shops out there as well. I wish we could ask them and see how they are doing, if niching down made sense for them. Let's take a look at when you need to niche down and when you don't. You need a niche if 1. You want to be an instantly recognizable artist. It matters to you that people know your name. You might also create lettering and/or illustration. It is common and very desirable for an illustrator to have a niche. I feel like in this case a niche is almost synonymous to having a distinct style. Here in this case an artist might be drawing all possible subjects but in the same technique most of the time. So the subject is very broad but the medium is usually the same. Or very visually cohesive. I see it a lot among the modern Procreate artists / illustrators. Sometimes they use Procreate, but then they will paint in gouache and it all looks very similar. So for them, patterns are more of an extension to their illustration work. On another note, I feel like people often underestimate patterns and don't realize that sometimes you have 5-6 gorgeous illustrations going into a single pattern before putting it in repeat. Number 2, you need a niche if you want to create illustration and pattern commissions for clients and you want them to come to you for a certain look. Then you need to be an expert in a niche so they will know exactly what to expect from you and your portfolio should reflect that. Number 3, you need a niche or a fixed style if you want to be represented by an agent. Agents love a distinct style. It's easier to market your work to specific clients that way. Some agents can work around if you have several distinct styles, but not everybody wants to do this. Knowing how to do lettering is always a bonus for an agent and also for working for hire as well. Now let's take a look at the scenarios where you do not need to pick a niche. Number 1, if you are planning to work for hire or as an in-house or freelance designer for companies and brands. It's only an advantage for the company if you can do multiple things, for example, tweak watercolor floral designs because you paint and have understanding of watercolor. Work on vectors, familiar with fonts and lettering, they will love you forever. If you're versatile, but at a proficient level, not just dabbling in it, it has to be quality work. And I mentioned it previously, but when working for hire, you often work on someone else's work. Sometimes you are asked to create original artwork, but in many cases you are provided with files and given instructions on what to do. And of course, files come from different artists, different sources, studios. Some are vector, some are painted, some are Procreate, and so on. They sort of go with your skills. If you can make original art, they might use it. That's great, but in many cases it's not required. Number 2, you don't have to pick a niche if you are planning to sell on POD, print on demand, websites such as Spoonflower, Society6, Redbubble, Zazzle, and microstocks such as Shutterstock and Getty Images. You can choose to have a niche in this case too. It's also helpful for building a personal brand and getting some return customers. But in general, this route is more forgiving to experiment and place some mismatching art here and there, because normally people come to those stores not for you and your style, but it might sound sad, right? But as if they come to a large department store where they can select from many different options. Some people would disagree with that. For example, I had a paid portfolio review a couple years ago with an art agent, and she looked, at all my resources, at my portfolio. I sent her a lot of, files and links. She looked through all my Instagram all the way back, but it was before the time when I started posting a lot, so it wasn't that challenging. She dug up some really embarrassing files and she was like, why did you post it on Instagram? You have to delete it, it's like so bad. So she recommended me to disable some files in my Spoonflower shop so they don't disrupt the cohesive look because they don't fit my aesthetic. I thought long and hard, but in the end I did not do it because if you look at my Spoonflower bestsellers page, there are some completely different designs there. The pieces that I poured my heart into are not selling, but some more generic and simple designs are popular among buyers. And as an artist, I always try to offer some designs that are trending, even if I don't like the trend personally. All in all, niching down definitely helps and is arguably the quickest way to get recognition. I agree with it, but here comes my story.
The algorithm says you should niche down. You should pick a lane. You should choose a category and you should stick with it. But I don't want to niche down. I want to expand out. I want to try everything. I want to make everything. And I want to share it all here. So that's what I'm going to do.
First of all, let me say that I'm not a guru. I don't have everything figured out. I definitely have a lot of experience, very versatile experience, but I'm not a millionaire and I'm not famous yet. I want to get this out of the way, okay? And so with all this golden knowledge and multiple times of receiving advice to niche down, I haven't been able to settle in a niche, these 7+ years. And trust me, I tried very hard. So whenever I decide, okay, I'm going to be making, for example, cottagecore art, I write an elaborate plan for myself for future art making, I just don't do it. And I'm not super proud of it. I suffer from it. Sometimes I think like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I pick a lane? I even thought for a brief moment that maybe I have ADHD. There is so much information on it out there now. But with all due respect, I don't think I have ADHD, and I don't think that any inability to pick a creative lane should be attributed to ADHD, because I don't have trouble finishing up a project. I just have trouble working within only one category, drawing in only one style, and so on. There is also a very curious book. Here's the book called Refuse to Choose by Barbara Sher about scanner personality. As she calls it. I will definitely make a separate video about it. Tell me if you are interested in seeing it, but let me summarize it just briefly. It's about people who can't settle on one career, in one niche, one category of art making, and she explains that it's just a kind of personality where you just love switching up what you do. It does not eliminate the possibility of ADHD though. I think that I've become this way, loving to work in multiple styles and not settling in a niche for several reasons. First, because I worked in-house and the ability to do everything was a big advantage. Also, every day working there, I was facing an abundance of art in all the different styles, categories, and mediums. It's like going to the biggest mall in the world or to a beautiful Christmas market. Another reason I think is because I had a big gap in art making over 10 years. I drew since as long as I could remember myself. I went to all sorts of art clubs as a kid. My parents noticed that I loved painting and drawing and they would enroll me in those clubs. Eventually, I started art as a teenager at an art school and was getting ready for an art college. But I got so stressed out the last minute, to be precise a month before the graduation, that I stopped art making and chose a career in linguistics. Fast forward 10 years, I decided to go back to college, to art college, after moving to the United States, and started painting and drawing again bit by bit. Can you imagine what sort of hunger I had trying to catch up on that decade when I shut down such an important part of me? No wonder I want to try every possible medium and do it all. it's getting better, definitely. Over these years, I'm like, okay, I've tried glass painting and tie-dye and marble dye, and I've tried it all, and I'm like, okay, I think I like painting most, and putting things in repeat on the computer. And the last reason, for me being me, I think, is that I'm just really creative and I love exploring different mediums and ways of making patterns. And also talking about it here on my channel, that's also, my creativity outlet. After all, I am in a niche of making patterns. I don't do greeting cards, I don't do book or editorial illustrations. I just love making patterns. Another big passion of mine is painting, and I try to combine it with surface pattern design. At some point, I committed that I would only paint in watercolor for textile design, but then goes a challenge, with animals or something conversational, with people or landscapes. And watercolor just doesn't give me the look I want, so I turned to a vector instead. In all these years, I haven't been able to find one style or one technique that I could use for any topic to make patterns. It's possible, of course, but I don't like the result personally. And I also constantly feel pressured to pick a niche. I have been told multiple times, and almost every video you watch about artist success tells you, pick a style, pick a niche. I'm still figuring it all out, and meanwhile I use Spoonflower as my playground, so to say. I was asked recently here on YouTube, like, why do you talk about Spoonflower so much? Like, why are you so focused on it? I think it's a very beginner-friendly platform, but it also works, when you are experienced. I like the freedom of Spoonflower. It's kind of this, balance of quality and freedom, and I think it also has some flexibility within styles, because, for example, I have a small portfolio on Redbubble, but I have 0 sales there. So apparently my style doesn't work very well there. I don't like the uploading process there, and so on and so forth. Spoonflower is, it's a great experimental ground. It's definitely changing, and I will be making videos about it as well. But I think, you can upload whatever you want, you can upload whenever you want, however many designs you would like to upload. That's why I like Spoonflower, and I talk about it so much. I think it's very approachable. Another thing to mention is I don't want to be in a niche, really. I really enjoy doing it all, switching from one topic to another, showing versatility, showing range, if you will. Also, sometimes I, think, hypothetically, okay, I settle for a niche, but which one? Say I choose to do watercolor designs. I would like to think that I have several styles that are quite strong, and even when I had that portfolio review with an art agent, she liked my work in general. I'll show some pieces here that she chose, and she said they are all good, but they're just so different, and you have to choose which one you want to focus on if you want to be known for your style. So if I settle for watercolor, for example, do I abandon my playful vector designs? But why, if it is strong, viable, marketable work as well? So in conclusion, I would like to say, if you can pick a niche, by all means do so. In general, it depends on your goals and your preferences. If you can imagine yourself doing the same thing for a while or forever, go for it. And I'm not saying it in a negative way at all. Niching down has undoubted benefits. It helps you streamline your marketing process, pitching to clients, and potentially appeal to art agents or studios if that's your goal. Your niche can also change over time, and I've heard an opinion that niching can sometimes harm you because you sort of become a hostage to your style and have to keep churning out Christmas patterns or baby patterns and so on. If you are reaching out to art directors and clients, you can take a look what they are responding to the best. Also, even participating in Spoonflower design challenges, you can see what people react best to, and what is selling best for you. But remember that it also ties up to the kind of platform Spoonflower is, for example. So maybe Spoonflower customers are not reacting well to some of your designs because they have a certain preference, for example, for packed small-scale designs. And if you make bold hand-painted florals, somewhere else they could be a bigger hit than Spoonflower. Spoonflower is just a small part of the surface pattern design world. As for me, I'm still searching for my golden goose, so to say, and by that I mean some kind of breakthrough, some of the branches of what I do that will be like so successful that I could like stop doing everything else. Because truth is, people react sort of equally to most of my endeavors. I can't say that I have designs that fail completely. Everything is selling, bit by bit. I've also heard an expression, flexibility within a style. I believe Brenda Manley, an artist agent, was the one who said it. And I like this idea, and I think that's what I'm trying to present myself as. Because no one can prohibit us to experiment in our creativity, but it's how we present it to the world that makes a difference. That is your portfolio website, your client pitches and emails, and your Instagram or other dominant social media, or however you share your artwork with the world. The way I present my artwork is I try to keep it 90 to 95% cohesive, but sometimes there's boom, a weird pattern or a plein air painting. But I want people to understand two things right away when they go to my Instagram: that I paint in watercolor and that I make patterns. And I hope it makes just as much sense to other people as it does in my head. Because yes, I do pay attention to it and I try to be mindful about my feed. But at the same time, I'm so tired of pleasing this mythical ideal customer that sometimes I let go a little bit and post whatever I want. But then I have to go back and keep everything cohesive. You can't please everybody for sure. As for my website, I curate it very carefully. I only put work out there that I'm 100% proud of and want to do more of. There is no need to post every single design you have ever made. And I received this advice from the artist agent to create folders within my portfolio where you can sort of go deeper. If you go to my portfolio website, you'll see like watercolor designs, vector designs, colorways, something that I kind of want you to take into this little world. Because previously I had everything together and she was like, you take me to this wonderful place and I see a pattern and I want to see more of this stuff, but I click on the next image and it's something completely different and I'm kind of lost. And yeah. So when you create folders with artwork that looks different enough, you can see more depth if you go into that folder, but at the same time, you're not visually overwhelmed where everything is together. Another thing that I want to mention at the end is that the harder I try to niche down and the more effort I make on being determined to work on a niche, the more opposite effect I get. I think it's just because of the nature of my personality. I have to have this artistic freedom and ability to explore and do different things. I'm not picking up 20 new things every month. I switch within 4 or 5 of my favorite things, which is manageable at this point. Now over to you. Have you picked a niche or are you a multi-creative as well? Comment below if you have stories to share, thoughts and kind feedback. If you've enjoyed this video, I would appreciate your like. It's a free equivalent of saying thank you and only takes a second. You can also support my channel via Buy Me a Coffee, a website where you can make one-time small donations without subscribing or having an account. And I think I actually just got super thanks activated on my YouTube channel, so you can also use that. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and tell your friends about it. It's Thanksgiving week here in the United States, so I have this gorgeous turkey and I want to sincerely thank you all for your continuous support, for all your likes, your comments. It means a lot to me. Thank you for being here with me, and remember, patterns are everywhere. Take this moment to subscribe, like this video. Water break. Water break. Sometimes when I hear the expression water break, I think of labor for some reason. I think when you're a mom, it rings a bell. All right, let's go on.